Have you ever thought you had it all figured out, only to have life throw you a curveball that brought you right back to square one? That's the beauty, and the challenge, of being human. Life isn't about reaching some final destination where everything makes sense. It's about embracing the unpredictability, the messiness, and the mystery. Because in truth, no one has it all figured out. And guess what? That's perfectly okay. Every time life humbles us, whether through a setback, a failure, or a plan gone wrong, it offers us something priceless, a chance to grow. See, the real secret to navigating life isn't in avoiding these moments. It's in welcoming them. Every disappointment, every detour, every mistake, they're not interruptions. They're the curriculum in what I call the school of life. The more you live, the more you learn. The more you learn, the better equipped you are to navigate what's next. Because life isn't about perfection. It's about progression. Think about it, the most resilient, impactful people you admire, are they the ones who've never failed? No, they're the ones who never stopped learning. The ones who looked at every setback and asked, "What is this here to teach me?" instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" When you shift your mindset, something powerful happens. Problems stop looking like roadblocks and start becoming stepping stones. Challenges become tools. And that's when you realize, nothing you go through is ever wasted. Every experience adds something to your internal toolkit. Every failure sharpens your focus. Every misstep deepens your resilience. I used to believe that once I reached a certain level of success, peace, or clarity, life would somehow settle down. But I learned quickly, life is not a destination. It's a continuous evolution. You don't arrive at wisdom and stay there. You cultivate it daily. The moment you stop growing, life will lovingly remind you to stay humble, to stay open, to stay learning. One of the greatest truths I've uncovered is that growth rarely happens in comfort. It's in the discomfort, the uncertainty, the moments that stretch and challenge us, that we discover who we really are. You don't find your strength when things are easy. You find it when you're pushed past your limits, when you're forced to dig deep. So stop running from discomfort. Lean into it. Let it be your teacher. Whether it's a tough conversation, a high-pressure challenge, or a painful loss, there is growth in all of it. We live in a culture that chases instant results. We want the success story without the struggle. But real growth doesn't come overnight. It comes like a seed. You plant it, water it, nurture it, and then you wait. You keep showing up. You keep believing. Because one day, that seed takes root, and what grows from it is stronger, deeper, and more beautiful than anything you could have forced into being. So if life feels uncertain right now, that's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're becoming. Just like that seed quietly working beneath the soil. Your growth might not be immediately visible, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. At first, there's silence. You see nothing, no results, but under the surface, roots are anchoring, strength is building, and then one day, without warning, new life breaks through. The same is true for personal growth. You might not see progress day by day, but every small decision to keep going instead of giving up, every intentional step forward, it all counts. Growth isn't always flashy. It isn't always something you can post about or measure. But it's real, and it's powerful. Sometimes, our greatest lessons come not from books or classrooms, but from life itself, from experiences that stretch us, from people who challenge us, from circumstances we never saw coming. The key is to become a lifelong student. Ask questions, listen more than you speak. Stay curious, surround yourself with people who sharpen you, who make you think deeper. Aim higher, love harder, and never, ever reach a place where you believe you're too wise to learn. The moment you stop learning, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, you slowly begin to wither. I remember a time when I thought I had all the answers. I was young, confident, maybe a little too confident. Then, life humbled me. Nothing went the way I planned. Doors closed, efforts failed, every move felt like it hit a wall. I could have let it crush me. I could have sat in bitterness and asked, why me? But looking back, that difficult season was one of the greatest teachers of my life. It taught me patience. It taught me to persevere when the path wasn't clear. It showed me that resilience isn't just bouncing back, it's rising wiser, stronger. Sometimes, growth looks like falling flat and still getting up. Every challenge has a lesson. Every obstacle holds a message. The problem is, those lessons aren't always obvious, and they're rarely comfortable. But if you're willing to look closely, to reflect, to stay open, you'll find the meaning in it. And here's the thing, when you learn the lesson, you're not just solving the problem in front of you. You're equipping yourself for what's coming next. Because let's be real, life's not done challenging you. But when learning becomes your habit, and growth becomes your mindset, you meet every blow with more grit, more grace, more clarity. The beauty of all this is, you don't have to get everything right. You just have to keep going. Growth doesn't mean never failing. It means learning from failure. It means redefining what it looks like to stumble and to rise. So if there's one truth to carry with you today, let it be this: never stop learning, never stop growing. So as we've explored the importance of never stopping in our growth, never closing ourselves off from life's lessons, it's time to look inward. Because true growth isn't just about adding more to our lives, it's about becoming more. And here's what's amazing: when you truly embrace growth with an open heart and a willing spirit, you'll start to notice something remarkable. Suddenly, most of your problems don't seem so overwhelming anymore. In fact, you'll find that many of them shrink in size, because you've expanded in strength. But let's be honest, life doesn't slow down. It pulls us in 1,000 directions. Work, family, relationships, obligations, they stack up fast. And in the whirlwind of doing and giving, we often forget the one person we're supposed to take care of most, ourselves. How often do we pause and ask, am I okay? How often do we check in with our emotional battery, our energy, our peace? The truth is, most of us are so focused on meeting everyone else's needs that we forget we can't pour from an empty cup. Taking care of yourself is not indulgence. It's not selfish. It's survival. It's essential. Because the moment you run on fumes for too long, it catches up to you. Mentally, emotionally, even physically, you start to burn out. You lose joy. You lose clarity. We think pushing through is strength. But sometimes, true strength is knowing when to stop, when to breathe, when to say, I need a moment. You deserve the same care you so freely give to others. And let's be clear, self-care isn't just about eating right, exercising, or getting sleep. Those are important, yes, but it goes deeper. Self-care is also about protecting your mental and emotional space. It's about creating boundaries. It's about having the courage to say no when something doesn't serve your well-being. It's about knowing that your time and your energy are sacred. There's so much pressure in today's world to always be available, always say yes, always be productive. But here's the truth: saying no can be one of the most loving things you do, for yourself and others. And you don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace. Turn off your phone for an hour. Skip the event. Take the day off. Let go of guilt, because guilt is the thief of self-care. It convinces you that prioritizing yourself is wrong, when in fact, it's one of the most right things you can do. Because when you show up for yourself, when you're rested, grounded, and whole, you show up better for everyone else too. And showing up for yourself begins with protecting what you let into your life, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Self-care means being mindful about your environment, your relationships, and even your thoughts. It's about intentionally surrounding yourself with people who lift you up, respect your boundaries, and bring light into your life, not drain it. What you consume matters. It's not just about food, it's also the media you watch, the social feeds you scroll, the conversations you entertain. Everything you take in has an effect on you. And true self-care is making choices that nourish, not deplete you. We often say, "I'll take care of myself when I have time." But the truth is, you won't find time. You have to make time. You have to prioritize it, schedule it, protect it, just like you would any other important responsibility. Because it is important. This isn't about escaping life. It's about making sure you're able to fully show up in life. And sure, self-care can be bubble baths and spa days. Those are beautiful, but it's also deeper work, checking in with yourself, managing stress, and finding healthy ways to cope when life gets overwhelming. Let's talk about stress. It's inevitable. Life will always carry stressors. But the way you manage them, that's what defines your inner peace. Self-care is giving yourself a space to decompress, to breathe, to reconnect. Maybe that's through meditation, prayer, exercise, time in nature. Maybe it's journaling, music, or a heartfelt conversation with someone who truly sees you. Whatever helps you restore, make it a priority. Because when you manage your stress, you protect your peace. And peace? It's priceless. There's also a form of self-care that runs even deeper, truly knowing yourself. It's about recognizing what lights you up, what weighs you down, and what you genuinely need to thrive. It's honoring those needs without guilt or apology. When you know yourself, you're able to give yourself what you need in the moments you need it most. You recognize when you're pushing too hard. You sense when it's time to rest. You know when it's time to ask for support. And you give yourself the grace to pause without shame. Because the truth is, when you prioritize self-care, you don't just benefit yourself, you elevate everything around you. You become more patient, more empathetic, more present. You show up as the strongest, kindest, most vibrant version of you. Self-care isn't just an act of love. It is the foundation that allows you to love fully. And when you love yourself enough to care for yourself, it becomes a gift not just for you, but for the world around you. So if there's one thing to take away today, let it be this: you are worth the time, the energy, and the love it takes to take care of you. You deserve to be at the top of your own priority list. You deserve rest. You deserve peace. And when self-care becomes a non-negotiable part of your life, you'll start to notice something powerful. The problems that once overwhelmed you begin to feel smaller, more manageable, less intimidating. Why? Because when your foundation is strong, you're equipped to handle anything life throws your way. One of the greatest truths I've learned is that life is all about relationships. No matter what we do or where we go, our interactions with others shape our experience, at work, at home, out in the world. The quality of your relationships can turn life into either a joyful adventure or a daily struggle. And at the core of every strong relationship lies one essential skill: communication. Now, communication isn't just talking, it's connection, it's understanding and being understood. When we communicate clearly, honestly, and kindly, we build bridges. But when communication breaks down, when it's vague, defensive, or filled with assumptions, we build walls. So many of the problems we face with our families, our teams, our partners, even ourselves, stem from miscommunication. The good news? Communication is a skill, and skills can be learned and strengthened. One of the most transformative tools in communication is listening. Not just hearing words, but really listening. Here's the truth: most of us listen to respond, not to understand. We start formulating our reply while the other person is still speaking. But real listening means setting aside your internal dialogue and focusing fully on the other person. When someone feels heard, they feel valued. That alone can transform a conversation. It can deepen trust, resolve conflict, and create space for healing. That's why you've heard the phrase, seek first to understand, then to be understood, because listening without judgment opens the door to honest dialogue. And honest dialogue is the foundation of every meaningful connection. When people know they can talk to you without fear of being judged, interrupted, or dismissed, it changes everything. It creates safety. It nurtures trust. But communication isn't just about how we listen. It's also about how we express ourselves. It's about sharing your thoughts and feelings with clarity, kindness, and respect. Because when you express yourself well, and listen well, you don't just communicate. You connect. That connection deepens when we take the time to express ourselves with clarity, and to listen with intention. Because communication is not just about transferring information, it's about building relationships that thrive on mutual respect. When you speak your truth clearly, with compassion and confidence, you create space for honest, healthy dialogue. You invite others to see who you are and where you stand. And you give them the same safety to do the same. Self-expression isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the most authentic. It's the courage to say, "This is what I feel," or "This is what I need," without guilt or fear. And when we learn to do that, with kindness, we start to create deeper, stronger bonds. Clarity creates connection. Respect builds bridges. And when communication flows freely and sincerely, relationships flourish. But here's something just as important: communication isn't only for others. It's also for yourself. How do you talk to you? What words do you use in your mind when you make a mistake? When you're tired? When you're scared? Because the conversations you have with yourself are just as important as the ones you have with others, if not more. If your inner dialogue is harsh, critical, or filled with doubt, it shapes the way you show up in the world. But when you speak to yourself with encouragement, honesty, and grace, you begin to shift everything. That's why self-affirmation matters. Affirmation isn't about ignoring problems. It's not pretending life is perfect. It's about grounding yourself in truth. It's about choosing the words that lift you up, that align with who you want to become. When you wake up in the morning and say, "I am capable," or "I can handle this," or "I am enough," you are rewriting the narrative in your mind. You are training your brain to believe in your strength, your worth, and your potential. And over time, those words become reality. They shape your attitude. They influence your choices. They create your future. Affirmations are like seeds. You plant them daily. You nurture them with repetition, with belief, with action, and eventually, they bloom. So, take a moment each day to speak to yourself with intention. Choose words that heal, words that empower, words that lead you forward. Because every powerful transformation begins with a conversation. And sometimes, that conversation starts within. And just as self-talk can shape your reality, so too can the words you choose to share with others. If something is on your mind, say it. If something's bothering you, express it. And if you appreciate someone, tell them. Don't assume others know what you feel. Don't expect them to read your mind. Clear and loving communication can prevent so many misunderstandings that lead to hurt feelings and fractured relationships. Because communication is not just about the words we say. It's about the presence we bring. The consistency between what we say and what we do. Sometimes the most powerful communication doesn't come through words, it comes through action. Through showing up, through offering support, through respecting others not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's difficult, especially when it matters most. The truth is, life is far too short for unresolved conflict and unsaid words. It's too precious to let ego or fear keep us from healing. When you communicate from an open heart, when you lead with love, honesty, and a desire to understand, you build relationships that can weather any storm. You create bonds that enrich your life, that bring you joy, that lift you up instead of weighing you down. So if you want to improve your life, start with your relationships. Examine how you communicate, how well you listen, how honestly you share. Because when you master communication, you master connection. And when you have strong, healthy connections, life not only becomes easier, it becomes richer, deeper, and far more meaningful. Now let's talk about another area of life that affects everything: money. Money is one of those topics that stirs emotion in just about everyone. It can be a source of freedom or a constant weight, a tool to build your dreams, or a stressor that keeps you awake at night. Financial strain can ripple through every part of your life: your relationships, your mental health, your ability to plan for the future. But here's the encouraging truth: your financial situation can be transformed. With the right mindset and a few disciplined steps, you can shift from stress to stability, from chaos to clarity. It begins by understanding this: money itself isn't good or bad. Money is neutral. It's a tool, and like any tool, its value depends on how you use it. The difference lies in your mindset. Are you operating from fear or from wisdom? A scarcity mindset is driven by lack. It focuses on what's missing. It creates fear, fuels impulsiveness, and often leads to poor decisions. But a stewardship mindset, one of responsibility and trust, shifts the entire dynamic. It's not about how much you have. It's about how well you manage what you have. And from here, transformation begins. Transformation deepens when you begin making intentional choices that lead to stability and growth. One of the most practical, life-changing lessons about financial wisdom is learning to live within your means. In a world constantly telling us to want more, buy more, and upgrade everything, it takes real strength to pause and say, "What I have is enough." This doesn't mean depriving yourself. It means prioritizing what truly matters. It means distinguishing between needs and wants. Do you really need that latest gadget? Or is it just a fleeting desire? Can you find contentment in what you already have, rather than always reaching for the next thing? When you learn to be content, you unlock a quiet freedom, not just financial freedom, but emotional freedom too. You begin to feel lighter, more grounded, and more in control. Another critical tool in financial wellness is budgeting. And no, it's not about limitation, it's about clarity. A budget isn't a punishment, it's a plan. It's telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. When you create a budget, you take control, you gain visibility, you gain power. Start simple. Track your spending for 1 month. See where your money flows. You might be surprised by how much leaks out through tiny, unconscious purchases. And once you see them, you can patch those leaks. A little awareness can create massive change. Then there's saving, a habit that may not offer instant gratification, but delivers undeniable rewards. Saving isn't just about preparing for emergencies. It's about building a foundation. It gives you peace of mind. It means you're not scrambling when life throws you a curveball. Even if you can only put away a small amount each month, do it. Because over time, those small amounts grow. They become breathing room. They become options. And options are power. Next, Let's talk about investing. It might sound intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. At its core, investing is simply about making your money work for you. It's about thinking long-term and planting seeds today for the future you want to build. Whether that's through stocks, real estate, or investing in your education and skills. The goal is growth, not just for you, but for those who come after you. Wise investing creates legacy. And finally, let's touch on something just as vital: debt. Not all debt is bad. Some debt is purposeful, used to fund education, buy a home, or start a business. But there's a crucial difference between using debt as a strategic tool versus using it to chase lifestyle upgrades or impulse purchases. Avoiding unnecessary debt is a pillar of financial wisdom. It frees your future, it gives you peace, and it ensures your hard-earned money goes toward your goals, not interest payments. The journey toward financial peace isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about developing a mindset of discipline, clarity, and responsibility. And when you do, you don't just improve your bank account. You elevate your life. And while avoiding unnecessary debt is vital, so is addressing the debt you may already have. Because it's not just about getting out, it's about taking your power back. Credit cards with high interest rates, personal loans taken on impulse, buying things just because they made you feel good in the moment. These are traps that can quietly drain your financial health over time. If you find yourself in debt, don't panic. Make a plan. Tackle it bit by bit. Set a goal. Track your progress. And celebrate every small victory. Because every dollar you pay off is not just a number, it's a step toward freedom. A step toward peace of mind. And as much as financial wisdom is about the numbers, it's even more about mindset. It's about developing a healthy relationship with money, where you respect it, but don't fear it, where you value its purpose, but don't let it control you. True financial wisdom means generosity. 2. Because when you manage your resources wisely, you create space not only to meet your own needs, but to give, to support others, to make a difference. And there's something incredibly powerful about knowing that your financial health allows you to bless others. If you're in a tough place financially, know this: it's never too late to change. You don't have to fix everything overnight. You just have to begin. The first step, whether it's setting a budget, opening a savings account, or asking for guidance, is often the hardest. But it's also the most important. One intentional move today can lead to lasting change tomorrow. Small, consistent actions compound over time. Financial freedom isn't about having unlimited wealth. It's about having enough to meet your needs, build security, and find joy in what you already have. It's about reducing stress, increasing peace, and living life on your terms, not fears. When your finances are in order, you free up massive emotional bandwidth. You remove a major source of stress and anxiety. And in that space, clarity grows, confidence grows, vision grows. Because in the end, financial stewardship is not just about money. It's about alignment. It's about making sure that your money serves your values, not the other way around. And that begins in the most powerful place of all, your mind. Your mind is your greatest asset. It shapes your perception, directs your decisions, and sets the tone for every area of life. The way you think affects how you feel, and how you feel influences how you act, which ultimately determines what you achieve. Yet, while many of us focus on what's happening outside, circumstances, outcomes, other people, the real battleground is internal. Mastering your mindset is not optional if you want a life of peace, purpose, and growth. Your mind is filled with thoughts all day long, and not all of them are helpful. Doubt, fear, scarcity, negativity, these whispers, left unchecked, can hold you back, cloud your vision, and sabotage your potential. But just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean it belongs there. You don't have to entertain every idea that knocks on your door. You are not a victim of your thoughts, you are the gatekeeper. You get to decide what stays, and what goes. One of the most powerful tools for mastering your mindset is practicing gratitude. Gratitude is more than a polite, thank you, it's a perspective shift. It's choosing to focus on what you have, rather than what you lack. It's the ability to recognize blessings even in the middle of trials. When you cultivate gratitude, you retrain your mind to search for the good. And when you look for the good, you start seeing it everywhere. It grows, it multiplies, it reshapes how you experience the world around you. Gratitude isn't about denying hardship. It's not pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about holding space for both the pain and the beauty. It's saying, this is hard, but there is still something here I can appreciate. Another key mindset tool is the power of reframing challenges. Life will always come with difficulties, that's a guarantee. But the way you see those challenges determines how you move through them. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what can I learn from this? Every setback holds a lesson. Every failure has the potential to make you wiser, more resilient, and more grounded. When you shift your perspective, you reclaim your power. You move from being a passive character in your story to being the author of it. And don't overlook the importance of being mindful of the voices you allow in your mind. What you read, what you watch, who you spend time with, all of it influences your thoughts. If you constantly feed yourself negativity, guess what? That's the lens you'll view the world through. But when you fill your mind with encouragement, inspiration, wisdom, you create an inner environment where peace and confidence can grow. Be intentional about what you consume. Choose content that uplifts you. Surround yourself with people who believe in growth, in honesty, in progress. Create a life that nurtures your mind and your spirit. And perhaps the most underrated, but incredibly impactful, tool is self-talk. The way you speak to yourself sets the tone for how you experience everything else. When you mess up, do you criticize yourself harshly? Or do you offer grace? When faced with a challenge, do you say, I'm not good enough? Or, I've overcome things before, I can do this too? The words you speak to yourself become your beliefs. And those beliefs guide your choices, which shape your life. Speak to yourself with kindness. Be your own greatest encourager. Lift yourself the way you would lift someone you love. Because the relationship you have with yourself sets the foundation for every other relationship in your life. And finally, one more powerful step in mastering your mindset is learning to let go of what no longer serves you, of thoughts that pull you backward, and of stories that no longer define you. Letting go of what you cannot control is one of the most liberating practices for a strong mindset. So much of our stress and anxiety stems from trying to manage things that are simply out of our hands, other people's actions, unpredictable outcomes, or the uncertainties of the future. But the truth is, there's only one thing you truly have control over: yourself, your thoughts, your responses, your attitude. When you start focusing on what you can control and release what you cannot, something powerful happens. You find peace. You stop carrying burdens that were never yours to bear. You create emotional space for clarity, for healing, for freedom. A healthy mindset also means setting boundaries, not just with others, but with yourself. It's knowing when to push forward and when to rest. It's balancing ambition with compassion. A strong mindset doesn't mean you never feel discouraged or down. It means you allow yourself to feel, but you don't let those feelings define you. You give yourself space to process, to breathe, and then you move forward. You learn to manage emotions instead of letting them manage you. One of the most impactful tools for maintaining mental strength is visualization. Picture the life you want. Imagine it in vivid detail. See yourself succeeding, growing, thriving. Feel it, believe it. Visualization isn't fantasy, it's strategy. It sets a direction for your brain. And when you consistently envision your goals, your mind begins to find ways to turn vision into reality. You train yourself to spot opportunities, to stay motivated, and to navigate obstacles with resilience. But here's the key: visualization must be paired with action. That's where transformation happens. When you take even one small step toward your vision, you reinforce belief. You build momentum. You create a loop of encouragement that strengthens your mindset each time you move forward. Mastering your mindset doesn't mean life becomes perfect. It doesn't mean there won't be challenges or setbacks. But it does mean that when they come, you'll be prepared. You'll face them with strength, with clarity, and with hope. You stop being a passenger, carried by life's chaos. You become the driver, steering, choosing, and creating your path with intention. So if you truly want to solve 93% of your problems, start by mastering your mindset. Because when you change the way you think, you change the way you live. And when you learn to guide your thoughts, there is truly nothing you cannot achieve. Because one of the most profound truths is this: fulfillment doesn't come from what we get, it comes from what we give. And that realization unlocks a deeper level of peace, purpose, and power than anything the world could ever offer. That fulfillment, that lasting sense of joy, comes from living a life of service. It comes from using your gifts, your time, and your energy to make a difference in the lives of others. This truth transcends culture, faith, and background. When you give, you receive. When you pour into others, you yourself are filled. When you live with an open heart, you create a ripple effect of kindness and love that stretches far beyond anything you can see. Living a life of service doesn't have to mean grand gestures. You don't need to travel across the world or make huge sacrifices to have a meaningful impact. Service is often found in the smallest acts, a kind word, a sincere compliment, a listening ear. It might be volunteering at a shelter, mentoring someone who's lost, or simply sharing a meal with someone who needs it. It's about being present, about opening your eyes to the needs around you and responding with compassion. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness makes the biggest difference. But service doesn't only help others, it changes you too. It transforms your perspective. When you focus on serving, your vision shifts. You stop dwelling on what you lack and begin to see how much you truly have. Gratitude rises. Self-centeredness fades. You break the chains of entitlement and replace them with humility and purpose. Even in your hardest moments, service reminds you that you still have power. You can still be a light in someone else's darkness. And that realization alone can bring healing. There's also something beautifully freeing about living with a heart of service. When you shift your attention to others, your own problems often become lighter. When you give of yourself, you discover a deeper sense of meaning. You realize your life is part of something bigger. So when you feel lost, overwhelmed, or uncertain, one of the best things you can do is to help someone else. Because when you lift others, you often end up lifting yourself. Service gives you a new perspective. Seeing others struggle can reframe how you see your own difficulties. It's not that your pain doesn't matter, it does, but through service, you begin to look at it with fresh eyes. You move from pity to power, from frustration to gratitude. And here's the beautiful part: what you give comes back. Maybe not in the same form, or from the same person, but it always comes back. Love returns, kindness circles, generosity echoes. Because in the end, The life you touch is your legacy. Be that person, be the light, be the change. That fulfillment, that lasting sense of joy, comes from living a life of service. It comes from using your gifts, your time, and your energy to make a difference in the lives of others. This truth transcends culture, faith, and background. When you give, you receive. When you pour into others, you yourself are filled. When you live with an open heart, you create a ripple effect of kindness and love that stretches far beyond anything you can see. And often, that ripple returns to you like a boomerang. Not always right away, and not always from the place you gave, but kindness has a mysterious way of finding its way back. It may return as new opportunities, deeper relationships, or simply the quiet joy of knowing your life matters to someone else. Giving unlocks blessings in your life that you may never have expected. Living a life of service doesn't require heroic actions or global recognition. In fact, it's often found in the unnoticed spaces of everyday life. A kind word to a stranger, a patient conversation with a frustrated co-worker, a hot meal for someone in need. These are not just gestures, they are acts of grace. Service also strengthens relationships. When we serve others, we build deeper connections, we cultivate trust, we form bonds rooted in selflessness and compassion. Whether it's your family, your workplace, or your community, serving together creates unity. It gives people a sense of belonging, a shared purpose. And in a world where so many feel alone, that sense of connection can be a lifeline. Don't believe the lie that your offering has to be perfect. Too often, we hold back because we think we're not enough, or that what we can give is too small. But the size of your service matters far less than the size of your heart. What matters is that you show up, you give what you can, and you do it with love. Because love is the currency of service, and it is always enough. You may wonder, how can serving others fix my problems? But when you give, your perspective changes. Service shifts you from a scarcity mindset, always focused on what's missing, to a mindset of abundance. You begin to see what you do have, what you can offer, what you can build, and in that shift, you often find surprising answers to the very problems you're facing. When you bless others, you invite blessings into your own life. You create an environment, both internal and external, where good things can grow, where hope can return, where peace can take root. Serving others also grounds you. It brings you back to what really matters. When life feels overwhelming, and stress seems to pile on, service brings you back to simplicity and truth. It reminds you that your worth is not defined by what you achieve or what you own. Your value lies in how you love and how you give. Service brings clarity. It helps you let go of what doesn't matter so you can focus on what does. And here's what's truly remarkable: you may never fully know the impact of your kindness. A kind word, a small gesture, 5 minutes of your time. To you, it may seem ordinary, but to someone else, it may mean everything. You may never see the fruit of every seed you plant. But know this: the seeds you plant through service have the power to grow into something beautiful. In the lives of others, and in your own heart. So if you want to fix 93% of your problems, maybe it's time to stop asking what's missing from your life, and start asking how you can serve. Be that person, be the light, be the change. Give what you can, where you can, whenever you can, because when you lift others up, you rise too. And in giving, you often receive more than you could ever imagine. As we draw this message to a close, remember, life is a tapestry woven from choices, actions, and attitudes. The lessons we've explored: embracing faith, nurturing relationships, practicing discipline, managing finances, mastering your mindset, and living a life of service, are not just ideas. They are powerful tools that can transform your life. When you apply these principles, you don't just patch surface problems, you heal from the root. You bring clarity, peace, and purpose into your daily walk. Life will always have its ups and downs, but when your foundation is strong, you can weather any storm. You can find joy even in hardship, strength in struggle, and hope in the face of uncertainty. So take these lessons to heart, live them boldly, and watch as they not only fix 93% of your problems, but also lead you into a life of fulfillment, impact, and lasting joy. If this message has touched you, inspired you, or helped you see life through a clearer lens, don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. And most importantly, subscribe to Dr. G_C said right now, so you won't miss powerful messages like this, delivered to you weekly. Together, let's build a community where purpose meets peace, and faith turns into action. This is more than a channel. This is your journey. Let's walk it together. Subscribe now, activate the bell, and continue growing with us at Dr. G_C said, official journey success.